welcome back, everyone. We got some people coming in here. We've got some people on Facebook. If you got any questions at any time, please use the Q&A function if you're in the Zoom, or ask on Facebook. We're keeping an eye on that as well. So welcome back to another Whiskey Wednesday with Binny's Beverage Depot. I'm Pat from the Whiskey Hotline, joined by Joe and Brett. Our special guests today are Travis, and I already forgot your distiller's name, from Hotel Tango Distillery. Sorry, only Travis's name is on the bottom. Who else is here? Oh, they froze again.
I'm the head distiller here for Hotel Tango.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You froze up again.
My name is Bobby Yates. I'm the head distiller.
Bobby Yates. All right, Bobby and Travis. Sorry, I will remember this. So, guys, welcome. Hotel Tango out of Indianapolis. Recent additions to Binny's. We had them for what, maybe a month or something now, Brett? 2 months, maybe.
Well, we're a month in. We've actually started conversations, have been going on a long time. I think through the beginning of them establishing themselves and just having a footprint in Indiana, all the way to a number of package changes all the way through. So yeah, finally, after a couple of years of conversations, we're selling them here in Chicago.
Yeah, we had tasted the stuff at various competitions and stuff before. Been very impressed by it. So Travis, you want to give us a kind of rundown on how you got from being a military guy to, as another friend of ours says, a recovering attorney maybe, to now a distillery owner? Like, how did you get from A to C here?
Yeah, so I'll give you the short version. 9/11 happened. I dropped out of college and enlisted in the Marine Corps. I did 3 tours with 1st Reconnaissance Battalion, came back to Indiana, finished my college up, moved down to Indianapolis for law school, started distilling in the backyard on a turkey fire in an old stainless steel milk can, and giving away as birthday, Christmas presents. And folks said, man, this is really good. You should do it legally. And at the same time, Indiana was changing the law for the first time since Prohibition. And my wife and I jumped on the opportunity. We were one of the first 4 in the state of Indiana to get the to be able to produce on site and sell directly to consumers out of a tasting room. And that was back in 2014. Since then, we've grown from just that tasting room to now over 22 states. We hope to be north of 30,000 cases sold this year. We just entered Chicago, just entered Binny's with you guys. I know we've been working on it for a while to make it happen, but yeah, it's been a pretty incredible growth trajectory. We do a combination. We make some products in-house. We contract some products out of house. But Bobby can talk a little bit more about what all the things we do in-house. And but the end goal is to bring everything back in at some point and really carry on that tradition and really have kind of our line of Hotel Tango whiskey bourbons.
And you want to, how'd you get the Hotel Tango name?
So thank you, great question. Hotel Tango, phonetic alphabet, for those of you who are in the military or service industries. H is hotel, T is tango. My wife's name is Hillary, my name is Travis, so that's kind of how we got to that. And then W is whiskey, so Hotel Tango whiskey is really the basis, the foundation of how we got to Hotel Tango whiskey. And yeah, that's
all right, cool.
The cute story.
So,
and then
Bobby,
you said this?
Go ahead, Brett.
Well, no, I just wanted to be, and we'll get into this. So you said that you came home from 3 tours in the military, and I'm assuming a decent amount of time overseas. Would your still made with the turkey fryer and milk container, would that have been used in any other countries besides the backyard in Indianapolis?
Oh man, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the history of distillation, I mean, dudes have been doing it in caves for 5,000 years. So, you know, I felt a little bit spoiled on a gas grill, but yeah, I mean, there is such thing as Iraqi hillbillies. I can assure you of that. And some of the ingenuity that those guys came up with, yeah, absolutely, was pretty impressive. Not just in distillation, but in a lot of things.
Sure. Well, and they would have been, and right, and in there, they would have been distilling things that they had around, like figs and right. I mean, you guys would be doing grain because that's where it grows. Because I know in that area, there's a tradition of making things like arak, which
Yes,
are usually
absolutely.
stone fruit. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, anything that basically with sugar, you can distill down. So yeah, those guys very, very impressive with their ingenuity. So yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And so how do you end up, Bobby, how do you end up getting hooked up into this?
I came from the beer world. I started making beer when I was 19 because I couldn't buy it. So I was in the party house growing up. So I started making beer and then making wine and then making a still and then making all that bad beer and bad wine into liquor. One thing led to another. I was trying to get into the beer industry, ran a small brew pub for 5 or 6 years, and then saw the growth in spirits and came on to Hotel Tango. I thought that I was applying for the job of the distilling team, but I came to find out that I was applying for a job juicing lemons. So I started off at Hotel Tango juicing lemons and then made my way to the head distiller in not that long of amount of time, but we've grown a huge amount since that. So I got in right at the right time.
It's a true success story. Mailroom guy to top floor executive.
Well, but but a lot of people will tell you fermentation because you made the offhand comment that you made bad wine and bad beer, so you might as well distill it. But ultimately, what happens is you make bad wine, bad beer, you get bad distillate, right? And so with the experience in brewing, you're incredibly critical because if you have a bad ferment, right? I mean, I'm assuming that's the way you guys.
Yeah, I had a really, really good teacher after I moved out of making beer in my basement and garage. When I started doing it on professional equipment, I had a really, really good teacher, and he has professional Siebel Institute near you guys. He has like professional experience in education. So we are very critical at Hotel Tango, and that's kind of what falls in line with my background and Hotel Tango today is the distilled with discipline tagline. That's where we really meet up and hold hands, is that we keep a really clean ship. We run a tight ship. Everything's very clean. We run things to brewery standards with the healthy amount of leeway for production and time management. But whenever given the opportunity, we will run our facility like a brewery as far as cleanliness goes.
Yeah, I can add on to that a little bit. Is these guys are Nazis when it comes to cleanliness, hygiene, and the way that they maintain the facility. Unlike some other distilleries that you might see that allow for some of the growth, and you look at some of the columns and you'll see grain halfway up through some of these things, and I think that these guys do a tremendous job of keeping everything almost as sterile as possible per run. Like, it's pretty impressive to see how meticulous they are in there. You could do surgery in this.
Yeah, that's always a joke. We always tell people sort of if you're in this business and you walk into a manufacturing facility, if you could perform surgery on the floor, it's probably a brewery. If it's, pretty clean, like your kitchen, it's probably a winery. If there are animals running around, chances are it's a distillery. So that's very unusual.
Yeah, that's dead on. Absolutely correct.
I feel like everybody who has walked through our facility has commented on how clean it is, even on a brew day.
Wow.
Well, that's big because fermentation, right? It starts, you can't have anything good come off it. If you put bad stuff into a still, you'll get bad stuff off the still.
Yeah,
right? So you really have to.
There's a lot of contention between the distiller and the cooper on who's putting forth the most effort of contributing to the final product. So I'm not trying to talk bad about any coopers by any means, but I would push back on the 80% of flavor is coming from the barrel. I think there's a healthy amount coming from the beginning product on mash day, let alone barrel entry day, that is yet to be explored. And I think that the craft brewer and myself and the people from the craft brewing industry that are coming along with me are going to kind of push that culture.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. We should probably talk about some of these products here. We were talking whiskey earlier. Do you want to start with one of those?
Absolutely.
All right. So we got the standard bourbon in the stores. Let's start there. And you want to break that down, mash bill and barrel and everything else you're doing with that?
Sure. So the flagship bourbon, what you guys have, our 2-year aged Maine Hotel Tango bourbon, is a blend of 2 different recipes. Both are bourbon. One has a higher rye content, one has a higher wheat content, and we blend those at a not 50-50 ratio. So to a specific ratio to achieve that balance of the sweet vanilla of the wheat and then that spicy bold of the rye, kind of bringing everybody together, hands across America style, and be a very approachable bourbon that is 2 years of age. So it's a quick turnaround time, makes it very affordable to the everyday bourbon drinker, and is a very quality product. It is contract distilled for us at Middle West Spirits in Columbus, Ohio, which is an amazing facility.
Fantastic distillery, yeah.
Amazing. I can't say enough good things about Ryan and the people over there. And then the barrels are all char 4, coming from Speyside. I know that Ryan does some business with the barrel mill for 30-gallon barrels, and he does some with Independent Stave. But from what I can tell, the majority of the barrels that he's getting right now are from Speyside. We recently transitioned, I would say within the past 8 months, from 30-gallon barrels to 53-gallon barrels. So the 30s were char 3, the 53s are now char 4. There is a small differentiation in color, but it is not a differentiation in flavor nor quality.
How are you changing your aging regimen then? Because usually when you, and again, we've seen this over the last 10, 15 years of craft production, as you're shifting from smaller barrels, 10s or 15s, through 25s and 30s into 53s, how has the aging, how have you followed that along to get that sort of very smooth linear transition from 30 to 53?
So at the very beginning, there was a stark difference between when you're taking X percentage of your rye blend, X percentage of your wheat blend, mixing it all together, and it's all in a 30-gallon barrel at the same char level. When all of that is equal, the change from all 53s is huge, right? From going from 30s is the same to 53s is all the same. And it's a massive difference. But if you blend 30s of the rye with 53s of the wheat and vice versa, you kind of get a more equal blend of those 2 products and the respective age of the barrel over time. So we've been dumping our barrels in that with that mindset. So sometimes we'll have 30s of wheat and 53s of rye. Sometimes we'll have 53s of rye and 30s of wheat, and just kind of whittle out that transition over time, which gives the bulk amount of our product more time to age.
Okay.
That was a question I had earlier. So these are blended, those 2 mash bills are blended after their age. Nothing's blended beforehand. You're just letting them age separately and then marrying them. Okay.
Finished products.
Yep. And Brett, what are we selling that for now? 40?
The standard bourbon is $29.99.
It should be 30. Yep.
So
It's
yep, it's $30.
pretty downright affordable, especially compared to some other small distilled stuff.
And that one was a big, when everything, I mean, when we first put everything out there, everything kind of got a nice jump because there was a lot of pent up demand, I think. But the bourbon has been one that, as we've gone further into this, that has really shown.
has really taken off for us. It's been great, and it is a great product. It's been the forerunner for sure.
All right, so we've got bourbon. We also have a reserve bourbon, which is is it only bottled once a year? Is that the deal with the reserve bourbon?
It is only available for 1 year.
Okay.
So that's part of the series that we're doing, that we know it's that means to an end, that we know we'll have a certain amount of series before we bring everything back in-house. That's the end goal for us. So we will continue to find and source some really good juice out on the open market and bring that in-house and make that ours.
Sorry, we got a guy messing with our lights here. All right, so reserve bourbon, we got some of batch 2 when we launched here, and batch 3 is coming out later at the end of the summer, right?
Yeah.
Two totally different products.
Okay, so start with batch 2, I suppose.
Batch 2 was
Brad, you got the bottle in front of you.
It was the beginning of this idea of releasing a reserve sourced / blended product every year as a limited release. So we had reserve at first, and then we said, what are we going to do with this once it runs out? And then this is the new baby, as it were. So Reserve 2 is an MGP product mixed with a George A. Dickel product, both at 6 years or more. And then again, blended not at 50-50. And really we found there was a balance of what was available, and then with a side of what is the best blend that we can come across. So RB2 is the first iteration of the idea that we release a distiller's blend or a specialty blend or a specialty select. We go out to the market, we find what we can find that's really good, and then either alter it or don't, and then send it out.
So what's your timeline for looking?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, what's your timeline for looking? So if you want to have each batch last roughly a year in there, is the search for the component whiskeys ongoing, or?
The short answer is yes, it's ongoing.
Always. It's way more art than science. And it's, as you guys know, what's available today might not be there tomorrow. And what we need of that year, that age, that mash bill, I mean, if you don't have the cash on hand to get it, it's going to be gone real quick.
Right. Hey, yeah, there are 100 barrels of 5-year-old MGP, 36% rye. You've got 12 hours to decide.
Yeah,
maybe.
Exactly. It's almost exactly that.
Yeah, we've had that conversation.
Yeah. So the Reserve Bourbon 2 was something similar to that situation. And it has been a very good product this past year. We have some of those barrels. We bought a lot of those barrels last year, so we're going to save some of those in reserve. And then Reserve Bourbon 3 is coming out, and I'm not going to give too much away because the marketing person might hit me. But
that is a young distillery mistake to take orders from the marketing people. That is,
it is predisposition that the production people never ever listen to sales, and in fact you're obligated to trash them for a certain amount of minutes per day, because that's the common production and sales.
I really
Bag of the finger.
My mind's telling me yes. My body's telling me yes. My mind's telling me no. You know what I'm saying?
Why say no when it feels so good to say yes?
So the Reserve Bourbon 3 is from a yet to be disclosed distillery that is no longer with us. So it is and we bought all of it. So there's no way that anybody else has it.
Interesting.
So it is anywhere from 6 to 8 year in a blend. It is all the same mash bill, so it will be unadulterated, but the Reserve Bourbon 3 is causing a big stir around our offices. It's a really, really good product. The fact that it's so limited is very exciting for myself. I have gone to the distillery and met the person who distilled it. Him and his family like built the distillery, as in welded all the metal together. It's a very, very, and they were never known for bourbon. They were never known for bourbon. They were selling moonshines and flavored things, and then went out of business, and now we've got all their bourbon. So it was a really, really great find, a really good find, kind of a really hidden jewel.
So the point I was going to make about the Reserve too is that balance of the spicier bourbon from Indiana and what is, unmistakably a bit of a sweeter style from Tennessee kind of is in line with the core straight bourbon that you guys are currently bottling. Sounds like 3 is going to be a bit of a departure though, one way or the other.
So 3, back into the number 1, which we didn't talk about. Number 1 was a Wyoming whiskey product that was anywhere from 6 to 10 years. The 10-year product is really great. If you can find a Hotel Tango Reserve Bourbon number 1 with a white UPC or white barcode, that's a 10-year, and it's really, really, really good. But really that entire line was fantastic. And it was wheat. It was a wheated bourbon. And so we're going from wheated of the Wyoming, and to the rye of RB2 of Dickel and MGP back to a wheated product from RB3.
And to your point, I think some people would say the same thing about Series 1 to Series 2, that it was a departure and different. And I think that they'll say the same thing. And my goal, I don't want to speak for Bobby, but is not to release the same style over and over again, but to release really good products that make people want to see the differences and nuances between Series 1, 2, 3, 4. And then have these conversations about which is best. Because that for me is really the fun part of is 3 or 5 going to be the best one? And
I'm with you on that. I mean, that's why we all taste and try new whiskeys, right?
Right.
If you're drinking the same thing over and over, what are you doing?
Right. Yes, sir.
And this Reserve Bourbon is fantastic. Do we have much of this left, Brett?
We have about 25 cases still.
That's not a lot.
No.
So we were able, no, that's not much compared to the amount of stores that it's in and what we've gone through. Our local wholesaler in Illinois was pretty generous for us. So we were able to fulfill some need, but that is right. It's going away. We're probably less than a month out and we'll be done.
Yeah.
Outside of bottles hanging about here and there.
All right.
So,
well, should we talk about the rye next?
Absolutely.
Yes. Although, interestingly enough, quiet as a segue, and I know this is completely out of left field and you might not be prepared, but it's done. Tell us about the cherry liqueur.
Oh,
Hot.
well,
Travis,
You're big fans of the cherry liqueur.
That's Travis.
I will know. Well, yeah, and it has been it was an outlier that was done initially as a lark. Against some is just like, yeah, you know what? We got to have some of it, right? So, and obviously people agree with me bringing it in or us bringing it in because we're starting to get some people that are really chasing this. So what's the story there?
So really, it kind of all evolved out of our tasting room. That's our big R&D facility where we try things to see if it'll work out in the market. And we needed to have something within our portfolio that would help within our cocktail menu. As you guys know, there's a lot of, I would say, bigger cherry liqueur brands out there that are, I speak ill of no one, but they kind of all fall within that same palette, I guess, of really sweet, really syrupy style. We wanted to create something that was a little bit more, a little bit different, a little bit more tart, and that's why we decided to do this spirit in the first place. We sourced our cherries from northern Michigan, and I'll let Bobby talk a little bit more about how we actually produced the product. But for me, it was such a cool departure from what was available on the market that I think, I mean, I could drink this stuff on ice. I think it goes great as a topper, as an additive to other cocktails, but it really stands alone on its own. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that the product itself is really good by itself. But
And Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, who's been listening, has had a couple questions. One was on the cherry, is it whole fruit? And then when you do this, do you get the almondy accent? Is that something that comes out? Was that something you were trying to do?
So I'll start from just method of manufacture. So the base spirit is our flagship 2-year bourbon, but only the wheated, none of the rye. So only the wheated section of our 2-year. And then we up that with some grain neutral spirit. And then that blend gets proofed down and then added cherry added to it. The cherry comes to us as a concentrate. So they harvest cherries, boil them down, get all the water out of them, reduce them down to a syrup more or less. And then we get it in pails, add it to and blend it into the spirit mixture and add nothing else. So it's not whole fruit, but it's processed whole fruit.
But no sugar gets added.
No added sugar. There's no added
And
sugar at all.
Sherry is, people who have worked with cherry know you have to be super careful with cherry anyway when you're doing whole fruit, because you can't get exposure from the pits.
Yep.
Because there is a kissing cousin to arsenic that's in the pits that isn't good for people. So
correct.
For what it's worth, that's one time where you want to be careful with whole fruit, is working with cherries.
And that's the thing about the TTB. They won't let you mess up that big, but they also are a thorn in your side when you want to, have something fancy on your label.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a big hit. It's a big hit. I just thought that on the way to rye that it's something that bears mentioning, because I think it's important for everybody to understand the versatility and some of the other things that can be done besides, the bourbon's the driver, but there's a lot of versatility there as well.
You just don't see a lot of liqueurs with an aged whiskey base either. I mean, that's ridiculous, and especially at a fair price.
So
sorry, Travis.
No, you're absolutely right, 100%. And again, I mean, I just like it because it is unique,
and that's kind of what we're getting after too. That's what we were talking about the other day, is that the aged whiskey or aged bourbon base for a liqueur you don't see very often. It is kind of lesser used, but people still tend to drink on that spectrum, whether it be the peanut butter whiskey or the Fireball whiskey. It might not be upper echelon like we're talking about, but you see people liking the sweet with the refined bourbon. So to find that married like in cherry with a big strong bourbon flavor, but still hitting strong with the saccharine sweet dessert like flavors.
That's very kind of you to use the word refined and peanut butter whiskey in the same sentence. That's you're being a team player for the whole craft. All right, let's talk about the rye now. Unless you have any more fruit liqueur questions, Brett.
No, I'm done with
variety, and they're all delicious.
Do we have because I believe you have some cellos as well, if I remember. Aren't you guys doing some cellos?
Yeah, we absolutely are. We've got an orange cello and a limoncello. Our limoncello just won got a 91 from Wine Enthusiast.
International.
Yeah, so we're very, very proud of that. I would say they're both very similar recipes, grain neutral spirits, lemon zest, and a wee bit of sugar. But that's really it. The three core ingredients for each. We wanted to keep it as close as kind of the traditional Italian, moonshine, as I call it. But yeah, very simple but very straightforward liqueur that works as both an additive in cocktails. But again, I like them on crushed ice. I think that they're a great sipper on a hot summer afternoon on the lake, or just hanging out. It's just very nice, easy to drink, and refreshing.
And we peel all that citrus by hand.
We certainly do, Bobby.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll talk to Winebow about maybe getting some of those up here as we go a little bit further along, getting some of those into Illinois. So, I guess, Pat, we can finally talk about the rye.
Thank you.
It's a delicious rye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the rye, as it sits in your glass, is 100 proof, 95% rye, 5% barley, aged in new oak barrels. It comes from MGP right now. We're putting down barrels for the past year or so to bring it all back in-house. We're moving towards a 100% rye instead of 95% rye recipe. And that's more so for differentiation from the MGP product that a lot of people use.
Mm-hmm.
So the 100, are you going to arrive at the 100 by using 95.5 unmalted and malted rye, or how are you going to, as you shift over, how are you doing that?
I mean, I as it stands now, the plan is 100% malted rye.
100% malted. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
And then
you don't see that.
so what kind of kit are you distilling on?
Us here?
Yeah.
So we have a batch column still. It's I've referred to, I come from the beer world, so I say it's 20 barrels, but it's 25,000 liters, 660 gallon batch column still.
Okay.
With fermenters and cooker to match the same volume.
Right. So all the pass through. So you're a straight pass through. One fermenter is one run.
For now, we just came back from Kentucky. We went to Vendome, and
Nice.
we were talking about growth and talking about how we bring all this in house and what it's going to cost. Basically,
Easy, fella.
That's a lot of dough.
Boy, that's a good looking
Long
still
waiting
there.
list
Can
of
we get that
still
one?
too, isn't there?
It looked good. You know what I mean? It looked good. Right now, that's what we're working on, is a 1-for-1 kind of situation. So we produce low wines, and then we rectify those low wines either on the same 600 gallon still, or we will feed our 150 gallon still. That was what Travis started with.
Okay. Which is, and I guess the question is for those who don't know, and sometimes, especially people that are all of a sudden have embraced rye in the last 5 to 10 years, don't understand, as you can talk, how big of a pain in the rear end it is to work with rye.
Yeah.
And then, and especially, I mean, MGP kind of for the longest time, and maybe Alberta and Canada kind of had the monopoly on it a little bit, if for no other reason than they had found a way to work with it and not create a complete mess in their equipment. And a lot of people who tried to do that found out just how tough it was. So what's your experience been with dealing with the mess of dealing with 100% rye?
So I say my brewing background, right? So I've dealt with this problem. I've dealt with a stuck mash before, but I've dealt with a stuck mash when you have to lauter, a full lauter, right? We're not talking about taking your entire cooker and pumping it into your beer still and having it gum up your downcomers. I'm talking about not being able to transfer into your fermenter at all. So I think that it's a little bit of an easier problem for me to solve. At that point, it's dilution. I'm gonna lessen my original gravity. I'm gonna take a hit on my proof gallons exiting my still by having a looser mash or a looser wash, instead of trying to get a bourbon wash out of it, which is very granular, very thick, but will still fit through that downcomer because the gelatinization is fully liquefied.
So what's your outturn? And so what is the difference ultimately coming off the still between a typical bourbon run and a typical rye run?
So as far as we're manufacturing today, I can't give you exact numbers on that, but for my math is around a 30% decrease.
Okay. Okay, because that's good. And then what is your barrel entry
of rye?
Yeah.
120.
Okay, so that's
Barrel entry of rye is 120. Barrel entry of all of our bourbons or I guess our flagship bourbon is always 125 on both recipes. And then the reserve kind of varies.
okay.
Our Yankee Hotel friend has another question about the rye here. And is the malted rye less likely to kind of glue up after fermentation than a mash with unmalted and added enzymes?
It's more about the mash. So
Okay.
it's about the conversion of the starch during mash. So the gelatinization point of rye is based on temperature and pH. So the starch that is in that grain has to be liquefied so the enzyme can break it down into a smaller sugar, a more easily processable sugar for yeast. If you mash too high, mash too low, mash not long enough, or ferment not long enough, then you're going to have a lot of those residual starches in your wash. So fully processing your raw material is going to be the end all be all of when rye kicks you in the butt. Rye is always going to kick you in the butt because of the nature of how its glucose structure and glucose storage is. But the more you do to help it along and the more you water it down is going to help you along the way. So let's say you have a 500-gallon fermenter that you fill all the way for bourbon. If I'm doing a rye, I'm going to fill it up to 400 gallons of wash. And then once it's done fermenting, I'm going to add 100 gallons and send it to my still. Because my mash is not my issue. My processing the grain in through a beer stripping column or whatever my process is, loosening that is going to be the key for me.
Okay.
And that's
So
why you
this
add
is
more
so-
in right before distillation. Got it.
This is
Yeah.
before it hits the still. This is all pre-distillation.
Well, your hard work is worth it. So just
Thank you. Thank you, Bobby.
yeah.
So, I mean, what's the plan with transitioning these from source stuff to what you guys are doing?
So yeah, we've got a 5-year kind of plan to start really bringing in things back that all coincides with consolidating our new production facility in the next 2 years. Yeah, we have big dreams, big plans, but we're laying down a lot of bourbon right now. We'll do 2,000 barrels with Middle West this year. We'll do another 2,500 next year. But slowly transitioning that back in-house is the goal. So like Bobby said, we were down at Vendome yesterday. So the goal is to start bringing this stuff up back in the next year. But we want to work hand in hand with Middle West to ensure that processes stay the same, that profiles stay the same within flavor, that we're not losing anything that what we've done with those guys. So we think we've got a great product with them. We don't want to lose anything. We want to continue to raise the bar when we bring it back in-house. I would also say we're doing a lot of cool one-offs as well. Single malt, 4-grain, some peated whiskey that these guys are doing that's, I think, pretty unique and pretty cutting edge as far as what folks are doing in the U.S. right now. Pretty fun stuff.
That's cool. I mean, and that's all done in-house currently?
Yes. Much smaller scale, but I think very, very cool and unique whiskey profiles. So.
That's very cool. Is that something that you think eventually is going to be sold, or we're going to have to go to one of the locations of one of the tasting rooms to check these out?
The goal is to eventually, release it into the market in limited
Okay.
supply. Obviously, it's seasonal and as fun kind of releases. But yeah, we're definitely putting away enough now. We've got to scale a little bit, but I think for what these guys are doing, I'm pretty proud of it. It's pretty badass.
That's cool. It's nice that you're, I mean, that's a brewery kind of approach to it, where like, most distilleries I feel have, a stillman gets, here's what you're making a day, you're only making this is all you're making, and you make that for a
Right.
shift every day, and you get to kind of experiment and do all this cool stuff. And, by no means is that unique to, within a craft distilling environment, but still so many people are so focused on having a bourbon and a rye that there's just no time or available kit so many times to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I 100% agree, and I think that would kill these guys not to be able to have some artistic expression within the day-to-day grind. I feel like this is an outlet for everybody, and again, for me, I feel spoiled because I get to see the end of their work product and see it as it's maturing, and I'm like, this shit's badass, and I cannot wait until it's ready to go. Like, this is going to go gangbusters. Like,
and you know what? If you're focused on the quality in that way too, this is the biggest mistake folks have made. You're obviously, we're sitting here talking about it. You guys have product in the bottle that's sourced. Not only are you open about the fact that you're sourcing, you're talking about where it's from and what you're doing. As long as what you're making is good, the great thing is there really doesn't even have to be an expectation that you have this perfect, smooth, seamless transition to what they were making to what you're making, because they're two different distilleries.
Right.
And it's okay, right? Because you're just like, this is clearly what we got from them. This is clearly what we're doing. When the quality's there, people will anticipate what you're doing being good based on what you were able to blend together.
100%.
100% agree.
So that's the great thing about being open about it, is then you're not creating false expectations for people. You're like, they know what they have and they know what you can produce.
Yes, sir.
And then when it comes to the things that have yet to be released and the barrels that we're putting away that we're making now that are kind of like investments in the future, are not 2 or 3 or 5 barrels. We're putting away hundreds of barrels of single malt, or we do a whiskey with oats and things of that nature that will be ready for release in 2 to 4 years. We're kind of waiting on what the market dictates. So
how much single malt do you have?
So my single malt's a little different.
We'll get you, Bob.
Okay.
I'll bring some up.
Okay, that's it.
We're hoping to end the year with around 40 barrels.
Okay, that's cool.
But we just started.
And is one of those the peated one? Is the single malt peated, or?
So our single malt is smoked. It's peated malt. So my single malt it's all malted barley. It's just standard base brewer's malt basically, and then some Special B, which is a brewer's malt from Belgium.
Yeah, I always threw in a little bit of Special B when I was home brewing. Adds a little more depth to it. I love Special B. It's a great malt.
Little stank on it. So it's actually almost 30% Special B.
Wow.
Special B is a base malt. Special B lends, it has diastatic power. It will convert itself, and it lends fermentable sugars. So all of our malts that in our mash bills are all fermentable. So it's peated barley, Special B, malted barley, and that's it. That's our.
And then are you going into gently used wood, or are you going into new wood?
Brand new barrels. I get brand new barrels manufactured in the Ozarks, smack dab in the middle of Missouri, and I go into a heavy toast char 2.
Okay.
You guys, I'll get you some. I'll get you a couple bottles of what the oldest stuff. But
I'm
it's
curious to try it. We are famous proponents of used cooperage for single malts, so I am curious to taste it. I think the heavy toast is going to make a big difference.
And a light char. Good call.
Heavy toast, light char. I'm telling you, this is my vision of American single malt when the TTB says that we can do it, and it is its own spirit and class type.
Is specified
Well-
on the type of oaks? You get slow growth?
I don't have that kind of control yet.
Well, we're big proponents. In fact, when those guys first met, which is probably 6 or 7 years ago, they actually met at the Lincoln Park location after an ACASA conference. Matt Hoffman and Colin Keegan and some of the guys that are really driving that,
Keegan.
that movement forward.
Cole Keegan is a fantastic product. I had their sherry
Yep.
finish. It was, it's probably been a few years back, maybe 3 or 4 years back.
It's unbelievable.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Amazing.
he does a really nice job. We just brought in the Delbeck. The Delbeck stuff is finally hitting, which is another, interesting sort of Western,
Yeah.
that mesquite smoke style.
And that's kind of like that Cole Keegan product is kind of where I want to live. Not exactly, but something similar where it's the blend, it's that merriment of caramel and smoke. And then if you bring in a new barrel to that and bring in that bourbon drinker or bring in that vanillin or lactone of a new unused barrel, you can really kind of marry all three people together and get this beautiful Venn diagram trifecta.
Sure.
That's what we're hunting for.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to try that. That sounds great.
Great. Any other secrets that need to be revealed? We've gotten you in malt. What else are you doing that is just kind of kicking around back there?
Travis has 6 fingers on his left hand.
Good one. That was a good one.
Said you wouldn't tell. Now these guys have always got something cooking. They've got some pretty badass brandies going right now that I think I don't know how much we'll be able to put out in the market, but it's unbelievable stuff. I mean, the small batch stuff that these guys, he doesn't brag, but I'll brag on him. It's pretty impressive to see some of the small batch stuff. And if you guys ever get down to Indy, you got to stop and try it because it's unique, it's different, it's badass, it's fun. And again, I'll make sure to get you guys a few bottles of Chicago. So.
Well,
So,
things are cleaning up. So we're getting back into travel. We're getting a little bit back into travel and visiting, and certainly 2.5 hours down to I-65 is a pretty easy get for us. So
Awesome.
What so you guys have a couple locations in Indy though. If somebody wants to come visit, you got a tasting room and another tasting room that the distillery's in, or is that another facility altogether?
So we have our original tasting room with our original distillery with our 150-gallon still. You can come down. We're downtown Indianapolis. We have a tasting room in Zionsville, and we have a tasting room in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
Without any manufacturing, without any of that stuff. And then we actually have a separate facility with our stills, fermenters, all of that stuff. So yeah, downtown Indianapolis, look up Hotel Tango, check out our tasting room. We got an Airbnb, we got a farm you can stay at. We love folks passing through to, I live 5 minutes away, so I'm here every day. If you see us walking around, say hi.
Awesome.
I love talking.
perfect.
So.
What other questions we got, Brett? We covered most. You got a 5-year plan, and you've been shopping for new stills at Vendome. That's really exciting. We talked about the whiskeys we have, the liqueurs.
Yankee
Hotel
Hotel
wanted to know how you
wants
choose your lemons for your limoncello.
Well, I can tell you that was not an easy process. From our start, we naively thought that all lemons were created the same, and they are not. We get ours out of California, I believe.
Last year was tough, but yeah.
Yeah, so we try to source organic lemons. We try to get it without the wax. It's again, the logistics of getting lemons to Indiana are difficult to say the least. But yeah.
If it's lemons, kind of, because we process so many, we peel them by hand. We do our best to get the best quality that we can. If we have to go through just your normal restaurant supplier, we'll usually treat them and wash them beforehand, not with like chemicals, but with some warm water to kind of get some of that wax off. And then we always process or batch or make those liqueurs well before bottling. So any solids will float to the top, and then only bottle a certain amount. So the liqueurs have an inevitable amount of loss, which is a little bit of a thorn in my side when it comes to having it be hand peeled and real fruit. If I could cut it with some fake stuff, I would from a processing standpoint, but the product would suffer, and you have to put all that stuff on the label, and nobody wants that.
Yeah. Better off just having lemons on the label.
Exactly. So it's just a little extra work.
So if you have lots of lemon pith left, you can make like another bitter liqueur and age it with wormwood and anger and use the pith. And then you can create an Indianapolis Malort.
So I tried to do the Indianapolis Malort, and people said no. I got
Right.
hard.
Well, that's because, yeah, but if the Malort people listen to it,
Give
they're
it a
never be
different
Malort.
name.
Man,
Let's give it a different name.
somebody asked me-
They don't
somebody
know.
the other day, and I told him, I gave him the whole spiel. I was like, all right, there's two kinds of wormwood. You got grand wormwood and Roman wormwood. The Roman stuff you got to lose a little bit of, but the grand wormwood, you can pack that shit up in there. I did the whole thing the other day. Somebody wanted to make it, but I got the hard pushback from the higher ups.
If there's
Don't be
any
so
laying
suburban,
around,
higher
we'll
ups. Come on.
Yeah, come on, higher
That's
ups.
right.
Give it a little
Okay,
indie
if
English.
there's any laying around, we'll do some QC for you if you need.
It's like a competition of who can make the worst tasting liquor.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have a salt caramel wormwood from Iceland that is pretty awful.
Yeah, it's,
You're a bad
Yeah.
man. You're
I'll
a
be the
bad-
judge.
It tasted like somebody dumped like Malort and caramel on a corpse. It was pretty brutal.
That's a great description.
So that's all I've got.
Tasting notes. Those are the tasting notes.
There you go.
you can find those tasty notes on Vinny's.com. All right. What else I think we covered most of the stuff that we have, at least. You're kind of sly on what's coming up. Are the marketing people out of the room yet? And you can actually tell us what's coming up? Okay.
They're still there.
Oh, all right.
Oh, man.
We'll have to wait for next time.
Oh, we have a lot of stuff.
Red, white,
coming-
and blue?
Yeah, red, white, blue promo that's going on with you guys.
Oh, yeah.
So we do a lot of donations to the military. That's one of our big ones this year. So proceeds from that go back to the United States military. So yeah, that's a big one.
Labor Day?
You guys do a Pride vodka too, right?
Sorry, yeah. Oh man, you guys are all over me today. Yeah, we have a Pride vodka that's coming out. That'll be I believe you guys are getting some of that. So yeah, look for that label. Very cool, very great cause, near and dear to our heart. We've been doing that for 6-7 years now with that group. So it's been wonderful. They've been great people to us all over the country, in fact. So
We take every opportunity to give back or break a little off for a cause.
Yeah.
You'll see it very often with us.
Yes.
Nice.
Modern and
Well, it fits because we kind of. You can hop in if you want. Is there somebody behind? Who's behind?
away in my identity.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right. Yeah, Kelsey, come say hi.
Nick Laddick is watching the bus.
Oh.
Come on in, Kelsey.
Kelsey sent me a whole list of stuff that she wanted us to talk about today.
Oh.
Kelsey,
Right,
how did we do?
Tell us about the promos coming up.
So you guys already did a great job explaining Memorial Day, the red, white, and blue. So for every bottle of vodka, gin, cherry sold, we donate $1 back to the Marine Reconnaissance Foundation. They're located in San Diego. And then Pride, like you guys talked about, $1 back for every bottle sold at places that are participating go to the Modern Military Association of America. They're based out of DC. Great program. They work with like veterans and their families. And then Veterans Day this fall will be all the brown spirits. So we do a Socks for Soldiers campaign. For each case of any brown spirits sold, we donate a pack of socks to soldiers overseas. So we try to work on getting like high quality socks basically to those combat soldiers.
So this is great. So just about everything we're buying from the Hotel Tango is not just going to you guys. It's going you're helping out. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Our CFO will let us, you know.
And he's not here right now.
Yeah.
So
Right?
So yeah, no, people take care of us, so we want to take care of those folks as well. So yeah, we're happy to do it. We're proud to do it, and yeah, thank you guys for participating with us to do it. Really appreciate that. Thank
It's
you.
easy, man. It's great. It's great liquid, and sometimes you see some, veteran owned stuff where it's just the story is that it's veteran owned first, and then also it's a bourbon or something. And this is just, you could put the same liquid in any other bottle with any other name on it, and we'd still want to talk to the producer about it because the quality is there, and and the care of the craftsmanship is there. So I mean, that's the ultimate factor, I think, with something like this. So it doesn't stand on its own in that way. So it's really great stuff, man. I appreciate Travis and Bobby. Thank you for joining us today. This was awesome. And Kelsey, yeah, and thanks, marketing people, and couldn't have done it without you. And anyway, so we'll have the Pride vodka should be in stores soon here. I would think, Brett, right? I think we
we'll get it
from
as soon as it hits Winebow. We'll get it turned around immediately ahead of a lot of the Pride celebrations that'll be going on here, which are coming up pretty soon.
And check into your local Benny soon for Reserve Bourbon Batch 2, because that is soon to be no more for this world, and it is an outstanding whiskey. So again, Travis, Bobby, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Everybody else listening, we'll be back next Wednesday with who do we have next Wednesday? No, next Friday. We've got John
With
Campbell.
John Campbell.
Yeah, and an odd time because he's in Scotland and he doesn't want to stay up late. We'll be on at 3 PM, I think.
It's also in the middle of Fijial, which is his busiest week of the year. So we're kind of happy to have him.
Yeah, totally.
You guys, yeah, look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes,
Thanks
very
for
much.
everything. All your
We will.
support.
We'll see you
Indeed.
guys soon. Appreciate it. Cheers, everyone. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.